right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. And if you're listening on the archive, I didn't hit the record button until the last minute, so the intro and all that stuff's cut off there until right when I come on. So if you're listening on an archive, the archive is not messed up. That's just, it's my fault for trying to post my Facebook bulletins and stuff like that. So the show was live, so I didn't look down and hit the button in time to record. So, but everything's rolling now. So the intro music and stuff will be cut off a little bit, but that's no big deal. As long as the show is all good in here. Thanks for being with us here tonight for another late night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. It is Tuesday, June the 12th, into Wednesday, June 13th, 2012. We thank you so much for being with us here tonight. And we're going to be, again, same story as it was last night. I'm getting all kinds of emails, people saying they feel something's brewing. So I'll talk a little bit about that tonight for you as well. Not very many news stories, not very much to get into tonight. So same drill as last time. We'll get into what news we do have tonight, which probably will end up, as it always does, taking me on some kind of tangents. And then we'll get into our continued series of reading for you here tonight. I also have a few emails I want to get into, so we'll probably get into those first tonight for you here as well. My website where this broadcast originates from is theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. You'll find all things pertaining to my work up there. You'll find the stream link. Oh, I was going to pass this information along. Because, I've gotten quite a few messages about this, and I've been planning on trying to, and still want to do that in the future, if the funding's there, if we have the support and everything, and we need to do the kind of stuff I want to do here, and I'm working on that. We're going to try to find people that want to get interested in getting behind us here, and I'm having a lunch with somebody tomorrow to talk about that kind of thing, so we'll see how it goes. But people have been asking if there was a way for them to listen on their iPads. And I have an iPad, so I was like, geez, I own an iPad. I don't even know if I can answer that question. So people have been asking me. There's been probably 5 or 6 different emails I've gotten. I do now have a solution for you. And can tell you what you can use. As soon as my frickin' email decides it wants to work right. It's an app called TuneIn Radio. And I believe this is compatible with all iOS devices, meaning you can use it on an iPhone or an iPad or anything like that. And there's a free version. It's a free app. And then there's a Pro version that's 99 cents. I mean, you can't go wrong. And with the Pro version, you can actually record what it is you're listening to. So this is kind of another one of those things, kind of an incentive for me to take this thing to, besides the stream. The stream will always be open and free. You'll always be able to come and listen to the show on the stream for free. But in the future, I may be going to actually what I'm planning to do, and this is part of, trying to find some money to get people interested in this. What my goal and my plan for the future is, pending we get the money to be able to do it, is I want to set up a full-blown members site with streaming video and streaming audio, and eventually be able to do have my own studio and stuff where I can have a live TV broadcast thing that'll go along with the live radio show. And you become a member, $20 a month or whatever, and you get unlimited 128K archives. People always ask why I'm not on iTunes, and the thing about iTunes is you have to take your show down to a shit quality, and I will not conform my show to 16K. I broadcast in 128K here because I'm an audiophile and I like to hear good sound quality. That's why it drives me nuts when it's not that way. I'm glad we got that back on track as of late. But you have to reduce it down to just such shit quality. But you can get this app, TuneIn Radio, And it works fantastic. You can literally download it, pay for it, get the free version, get the pro version, whatever you want. The pro version is pretty badass. For 99 cents, you can't go wrong. And as soon as you open the app, there's a search thing. You can go right to that search thing immediately and type in the Global Reality Radio Network, and boom, it'll come up. And within seconds, you'll be streaming and listening to the stream here for the show, live or Memorex if you're listening to the archive later on. But boom, there it is. There's your solution. Everybody's been asking for that. Hope that helps. Don't ask me for fucking Android, because I don't know. I don't fuck with Android, NSA, Google products at all. Refuse to. Not that, any of them. You get a moniker of, the price tag increase for Macs and Apple products has always been for two things. One, the extra moniker of privacy, and number two, kick-ass software. But one of our listeners, Matt, who sent us a lot of emails, said it works great for him. So that's rad. There you go. So you can listen to that. I'm also working on being able to get it up on because all you have to do, there's some way you can do it. Actually, I'm trying to remember. This may be something Manhunter could do. There was, maybe that may have been to get it on iTunes. I don't remember. There was something where to get it listed, I could get my network listed on the internet radio stream listing for Apple, for iTunes, I guess it is. And all you have to do is send them an email and send them the stream link, I think it is. I forget exactly what it is, but I'm going to do that at some point. But if you have Apple TV, which is like $99, you can replace your entire, if you have cable or satellite or something, you want to get rid of it, that's the best way to do it. Because you can get one of those boxes for $99, and if you have, internet, it connects to that through your network, and you have your Netflix on there, and you've got iTunes on there where you can rent movies in HD or watch them in HD. And another cool feature is if you have iTunes already on one of your computers at home, you can set up home sharing, where as long as you have the files, the movie, you have to transfer it into and encode it into a different format, like MOV, if you don't already have it there. But if you do that, if you get yourself a little encoder, which are cheap and easy to find, a lot of times you can find them for free. You can basically, any format you can put into a .mov file, you can drag and drop right from your other computer that has iTunes and all your movies and stuff stored on it, and dump it right in there into iTunes, and then it'll pick it up on your Apple TV wirelessly, and you can sit there and download your movie. You don't have to, sometimes you have to hook up your laptop with the HDMI cable, and that's a pain in the ass, because sometimes you want to watch a movie, and sometimes you want to, if you're like me, you want to, I like to have a movie on. I'm retarded. I like to have a movie on and read a book. You know what I mean? I'm paying attention to both. But I like to have a movie on, and I'll be over on another computer doing research. I don't want to have my computer tied up, But that's a great way to do that. And one of my point was for that is that if you've already got your iPhone or your iPad or whatever, and you have the Apple TV thing, you can wirelessly broadcast anything to your main TV screen from your iPad or your iPhone with a touch of a button. It's not even a piece of software you have to get. It's just a little button that's built into it. So you can do that as well. If you have an iPhone and you have the Apple TV box, it's $99. You could stream the show and the network there wirelessly through your surround sound system or whatever in your living room, and you can have it there, listening to it that way anytime you want. So it's kind of a cool thing, and I'm trying to at least let people know. I mean, that's why I try to stay up on a lot of this stuff, because I try to find any little, thing I can to try and utilize just to maybe get some more people listening. I'm a terrible self-promoter. That's one of my biggest problems. I don't go around, blowing up people's pages, promoting my stuff. I appreciate that very much when other people do that for me, though. That's awesome. But, any of these little things like that, especially when you're incorporating home networking and stuff, if you can get in on that and get it where you know, people can listen to the show now and not be tethered to their PC. You know, that's been the biggest problem up until now. Hell, you can listen to my show. If you have one of those little FM broadcasters you could hook to your iPhone or whatever, shit, or your iPad, either one. You could literally get in your car right now and go for a drive and be listening to me on your stereo in your car live. How awesome is that? So those things I definitely encourage for people who have the means and the ability. I don't own a smartphone. I don't own a phone at all. Although if things keep going the way they're going, I don't know. Maybe get one eventually, much to my dismay. At least just to have for people to contact me. I don't know. It's getting wild and crazy over here. But yeah, there you go. You can now listen on your iPad, iPhone, any of that stuff. It's very easy. You want me to give you the name of that program one more time? It's called TuneIn Radio. TuneIn Radio. It's on the Apple Store. I meant to cover this last night and I didn't. I apologize to Reality Manufactured, a.k.a. Pisces Dark Star, who comes in our chat room now and again. He's the guy that shot the Serpent Mound footage stuff for us. He also shot some other footage for us, and I haven't gotten a chance to go through it yet because I haven't been working on that end of it right now. I've been working on other ends of this. But he says, you got me so excited about the Serpent Mound now. Good work, man. I knew there was something more there. I can't believe you didn't know that it was on a meteor crash site. Thought I shot the sign that said that. It's one of those things, I may have known that and forgotten it, man. Sometimes when people say, you hear old folks, old conners say, boy, I've forgotten more you ever know in your whole life. Sometimes I feel like that. Because I really do. I feel like sometimes I've forgotten more than a lot of people will ever know. But yeah, I guess the reason it was such a shock to me when I was reading that last week was because I had just been working on the rock wall stuff, and I was getting into some information where this geologist, Bud Shelton, who did this full comprehensive report on the rock wall. It's so hilarious. I've talked about it before. It's hilarious because he's doing this from a scientific standpoint, trying to baffle you with bullshit and using all these big words, all this big terminology. And in the end, he makes more leaps and takes more, theories than those of us who are pushing for the unnatural origins of this. So every link to say, it's natural, but, this is the first time it's ever been encountered in the geological world ever. Or, yes, it's natural, but nowhere else in nature have we ever found these elements existing together, without some involvement of someone mixing them together. Right? And so this guy had, I was getting this information where supposedly there's some rock quarry, and I've tried in vain to find this place. It's really close to where I used to live, really close to where my parents' house is. And a couple of years ago, me and some friends and my sister went out there to try to find this place. Suppose there's a rock quarry real close somewhere to the rock wall in the area, kind of where I used to live. And Bud Shelton allegedly found some ancient meteorite in this quarry. And so it made me wonder if this quote-unquote quarry was actually a meteor crash site. And with the magnetic anomalies associated with the rock wall, I guess that's why I was so blown away by that when I was reading that stuff about the meteor crash site that the Serpent Mound was built. I was like, it hit me. I immediately knew that everything that I have been speculating about as far as these pre-Hebrew, pre-Israel, even post-Canaanite, Middle Eastern, the Amorites, who I fingered as being a big piece of this. You'll see that all this laid out in the film. He says, I'm ready to go back there now. I don't know if I mentioned this, but when I lived in Peebles for a year, probably the best year of my life. I was 18, so you could say that was why, but I don't know. Something about that area. I really miss living there. If I moved there, it would take me over an hour easy to get to work every day. Boo. I'm emailing you because you haven't said anything about the Fort Ancient footage. I know there wasn't much to give you, but the footage gets better towards the end of the videos. I was being attacked by bugs nonstop, and it was like 100 degrees. Oh, man, that sucks. Yeah, I understand for that. Sorry for the poor footage. Oh, you know what? Hey, man, look, I haven't looked at it yet, and if I end up using some of it or end up don't, either way, I appreciate the effort. You know what I'm saying? And I'll definitely go through it and see. I just haven't had time because I haven't been working on that element, that aspect of it right now. I'm working on other elements, but yeah, I mean, either way, I appreciate you going out into the elements and doing that. We've had several other people who've been out to some of these places as well. Cahokia, Illinois, and Paul sent us some stuff that we'll get into tonight as well. And people are finding the same things I am, especially when I show them, hey, look at this, and look at this. This was found near there, and whatnot. And it's it's just a totally different. Once you look at the information and then you go out to one of these places and you see it for yourself. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's like something tells you to just keep going. It's either an internal voice or something. There's just something that says keep down this path, because you can feel that. There's something to it. At the mountain sites I visited, from 4 or 5 different sites. I hope to do more if we can get the funding we need to finish the film. And it was just one of those things where you definitely tell that the story that you're being given is not really the whole truth. I hiked every trail there was and tried to find anything that was worth any worth to it, but I should have done more research before I went because I wasn't sure what I was looking for till towards the end of the day. Just haven't heard a reply. I heard you mention it, so just wondered what was up. Some videos I paused and continued when I saw something, so if a vid looks like nothing, it might be something at the end. They had a museum there, but they wanted like $10 a person, I think, just to park. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's why to go, I went to like 5 places on my trip, and I got to take people with me, and I got to pay for all that stuff. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like by the time. A couple of them were free, but by the time you pay for a couple of people to go or team to go cover these things, yeah, man, it gets pricey. I understand. Then museum tickets were about the same. Didn't think that was worth it. Cool area though. Sometimes they are. I mean, I'll tell you this: the museum at Moundville, it doesn't cost anything to go in it, but the museum at Moundville, Alabama, I was damn sure glad I went in there. It was worth it because, as you'll see in the film, there were some very symbolic things in that museum that you'll see in the footage that lets you know real quick that you're on the right trail. I mean, as soon as I walked in there, just flying serpent symbology. Everyone went, oh my God, I knew it. I fucking knew it. Did think it was worth it. Cool area though. Lots of summer camps for kids and canoe rental places around there. Kind of had the Camp Crystal Lake to it in some places. Friday the 13th was filmed in Ohio too. So let me know if there's anything I could do, man. I'm trying to find someone to lend me a better camera. I want to go back to Serpent Mound again, since it's only 35 to 40 minutes away. So let me know if you have any requests. Well, thanks, man. And, I'd love to be able to one day, buy some cameras for people like you. Just ones that cost $300 or something, or $400. I mean, some of those ones like the Sony ones like I got, you can get now. Paid over $1,000 for that camera last year. You can get it for like $300-400 on Amazon now, man, and they're highly worth it. I highly suggest anybody who wants to do any kind of filming like that. But I mean, the stuff that you got from the Serpent Mound, I chopped it up a lot for the film, but the quality of it was definitely usable. There was some that somebody sent me. I think it was from the Spiro Mounds in Oklahoma. They sent it to me on their YouTube page, and I hadn't got around to get up to all that yet, but from the looks of it, it didn't look like it was going to be usable. It looked like it was really poor cell phone quality footage. This is from Omar. He says, good morning, Josh. I found myself defending you to a friend of mine that I exposed to your work. He enjoys your point of view and commenting, but keeps making fun of how you say Kia Dad. I told him that to go fuck himself, rinse, and then repeat. If you are interested in the phonetics of that word, it's pronounced like this. See you, Dodd. Oh, see you, Dodd. See you, Dodd. I'm sorry. I was saying Cuidad or Kiadad or something of that nature. I don't say Spanish words often, but when I do, Kiadad, Ciudad. I apologize if I offended your Mexican friend by not saying the Kiadad. Oh, are you threatening me? Oh, Kiadad. Oh, Cornelio. Oh, just don't give me a case of Montezuma's Revenge and we'll be all good. How about that? Thank you for correcting me, though, my friend. No love lost. Hope your email doesn't offend. No, it's cool. I mispronounce words all the time on here. I don't claim to be. I don't claim to be some language expert. I mean, my God. You people act like that I work for fucking ABC News or something over here. You know what I mean? It just, and that's part of this disconnect and this association thing that people have with people who are, in the spotlight. You know what I mean? I fuck up mispronounced words all the time, dude. I'm human. Are I allowed? But again, that goes back to that same old thing with me, is that when people can't find flaw in my research or my information, they start nitpicking and going after shit like that. It's classic every time. This is just like I talked about a few weeks ago when people, people get bored and get tired of doing research, or they start going around chat rooms. Ooh, so-and-so was saying you about this to you, and start trying to get Patriot Radio hosts to war with each other and trying to get, me to get in some embroiled attack with some Patriot Radio host or something. Man, it's just people get bored and they don't want to do their own research, and they can't find any fault in what you're doing to bring up contrary information to maybe try to advance the research, because they're not doing research on their own. And then, that's all they have left. So that's on that person, not me. This is from Philip. He says, Josh, sorry to hear you had such a bad week last week. Hope things are getting good for you. I was wondering if you got the email I sent back on June 2nd. I was surprised not to hear any reply. I don't know if you listened to the show or not, Philip, but I responded to your email on the show. I'm sorry if you don't listen to all the shows all the time, but, I can't respond back to everybody with a personal email. I just don't have time. I try my best to in some cases, but sometimes it's just easier for me to get up here, like I did with Pisces earlier in his email about the footage and stuff. It's just easier for me to get up here and say it like this. So, I guess just check he's not going to hear me anyway if he's not listening to the archives, is he? I guess I'll have to send this guy an email. But yes, I did read this guy's email. I just read it on air. I was surprised to not hear a reply, because you weren't listening to the show, Mister. I listen to the show all the time, and I'm a big listener. I love that. I get that from people sometimes. I'm a huge fan. I listen all the time. Why didn't you respond to my email? Well, I read it on the radio show. That happened to one guy. I read it twice on air. He's like, I can't believe you won't respond to me. I'm like, dude, mister, I'm a big listener. I guess you're not as big of a listener as you claim you are if you didn't hear me respond to your fucking email not once but twice. I mean, man. I long for the day where, I could have a war chest to operate with, where I could just work on the information, work on doing research, work on the films, and not have to worry about fundraising or, dealing with all these different personalities of people who want your time and a chunk of you in some kind of way. It's crazy. But I guess obviously, this guy wasn't as big of a listener as he claimed he was. Kind of reminds me, I just heard this interview with Rush, with the band Rush. It was conducted by Billy Corgan. I think it was over the weekend. And their new album came out today. And by the way, Neil Peart just confirmed what I already knew for a long time. He is indeed a Freemason. I knew he was a Freemason. I just known that for years from different little things I picked up on. But on the new inside picture of the Clockwork Angels album, there's a profile picture of the band there, and Neil is third in the back, and he's doing the classic hand in jacket. The hand in jacket is always a dead giveaway. You see somebody putting their hand in the jacket like that in a photograph, that means they're a Freemason. Period. End of story. There's no argument. There's no need for further proof. That's what that means. But Billy Corgan in this interview had made himself out to be such a big Rush fan, and they were making such a big thing out of him being such a big fan. And I'm sitting there going, "Come on, Billy, are you really as big a fan as you say you are?" It kind of sounds like he is, but at the same time, it's like big fans like me keep up with all the current albums and everything that they're doing, right? And at the end, he just totally proved that he's not as big a fan as he made himself out to be. And I almost had I had to turn it off. It was so uncomfortable. He straight up at the end said, at the end of the interview, says, "And just want to let you guys know that if you ever need anybody to go out, and if you ever need an opening band, we'd love to. We're offering our services to open for you on your tour, for a leg of your tour, blah, 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 Smashing Pumpkins." And I'm sitting there just shaking my head, going, Billy, come on, buddy. Mr. Big Fan. If you're such a big fan, Billy, you'd know that Rush has not had an opening band since the Counterparts tour in 1994. It's been almost 20 years, Billy, 18 years. They don't have opening acts. It's an evening with Rush. You pay your fucking $75 or whatever the fuck it is, and you go and you get your fucking mind and your ass rocked for 3 hours. 3 fucking hours. Yeah, no opening act, none of that horse shit. No, you don't need to be warmed up to go see Rush, okay? You don't need to be warmed up. There's no warm-up necessary. No warm-up band is necessary. I heard him tell this story where Blondie opened for him one time, and they just got murdered. Blondie just got murdered. Rush fans were not there to see Blondie. Not one bit. But that's kind of how I feel. This guy's like, "Oh, you're a big fan, but you're not listening to the shows to hear me respond to your emails." I just don't know how to deal with that. I didn't get you confused with someone else. Like you said, listen to the shows, bud. This guy's going to feel really bad if he, I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, you're a big fan, but if you're not keeping up with my work and you're not here when I'm responding to you, I really don't know what to do about that. Seems weird that someone would say they're such a big fan, but they've sent me 3 emails and they say, "Well, you haven't responded to me. You haven't responded to me." Oh, man. I'll see what I'm up against now over here. This is why I get frustrated, because I spend so much of my time dealing with stuff like that. And then, still we're not, don't have enough money to pay the bills or something. I'm like, I've been dealing with all this stuff that I shouldn't have to deal with, for my audience. And, and then they're not helping me out in return. It just, you get frustrated. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, yeah, this is what I was talking about from Paul earlier. Paul said, where'd it go? There it is. I just got back from Tennessee from a funeral, so I'm a few days behind on the show. I saw some cool stuff, though, while I was there. Ancient caves and mounds, all of my girlfriend's uncle's property near Livingston, Tennessee. I also met an ex-Green Beret who was our great uncle and has dived many times on the TVA's dam, Dale Hollow. It's a lake that the TVA flooded. Yeah, I got footage of on top of the Florence Mound on the water where the lake used to be from that area. Yeah, it's a lake the TVA flooded back in the 30s or 40s, and now it covers a few towns. I just thought it was kind of ironic, as you were just discussing this last week. I got a few pics of one of their caves, but I'm hoping to get back this summer to get more. And he sent me a picture of this. I'll see if I can upload it to the chat room for you so you guys can see that in there. It's fucking amazing. And her uncle told me that some scientists came out a few years ago and spent 3 weeks in it doing research and confiscated a bunch of artifacts but wouldn't tell him what they were, even though he owned the property. I would have blew that guy's motherfucker's head off with a shotgun. I'm sorry. You should have, man, that's a fuck up. You can't let people come on your property and take shit out of it like that, especially scientists. Fuck them. Oh, it's science. We can take anything from your property. No, fuck you. You better go get a presidential writ or your head's going to get fucking sprayed against that rock over there. But, man, I would love to go here and check this out. I wish you could hook me up with that. I'd like to go out there and, they said there's more caves on this guy's property, man. That's just unbelievable. But, yeah, I'll tell you what, people have talked for years and years and years about the Smithsonian, about the Vatican and, everything they're hiding. And, yes, we know they are, but man, I tell you, the more I research, the more I find out that the Smithsonian Institution, they're the real motherfuckers. I mean, I don't know, man. If I was going to say there should be any group or organization that should be openly, publicly, and widely rallied against, I mean, I'm talking about even more than the Federal Reserve here. It would be the Smithsonian Institution. My God. They got the keys to the kingdom over there, man. They have hid everything about the past of North America and are continuing their cover-up campaign on behalf of the priest class and the people who are propagating this phony official story of the events of history, the events of time. Where did that picture go? I'm still trying to find it. But, yeah, I mean, the Smithsonian. I really, at some point, want to make a film about the Smithsonian and really show everything that they've had a hand in covering up. And it's just like at every turn here while I'm researching for this film, I just find more and more. 30,000 something artifacts confiscated from Moundville, Alabama, and you go there today and there's just a handful of artifacts. They even have some artifacts. Oh, it's too big. It won't let me post in the chat. Sorry, guys. But, a handful of scant artifacts and the ones, even some fake artifacts. And I'm going, you guys had to resort to making fake artifacts for Moundville, Alabama, when the Smithsonian is sitting on over 30,000 real artifacts that were taken and excavated from there that we're not allowed to see. And this area, this cave on this his girlfriend's uncle's property, that's real close to where they found the Bat Creek inscription at. So, yeah, that's highly interesting. I appreciate you I appreciate you telling me about that. I wish I could go up there and check that out. I definitely want to get back to that area because I want to go to the college where the Bat Creek inscription is and get footage for it for the film. So, again, if you want to help us support that film, go to my website, theglobalreality.com. There's an emergency chip-in banner there for the budget. You can chip in and help us out. All right, that's all the emails. You can send emails in to me anytime. Global Reality Show @gmail.com. That's Global Reality Show @gmail.com. Not a lot of news tonight at all. Just a few stories here. But a couple of interesting things I want to mention. Every day now, it seems there's more and more news stories of... I mean, if you guys notice how the sky watching has become like the new world issue. Every day there's new articles about new antenna arrays going online, being built, new satellite telescopes. All of a sudden, we've got, just really out of nowhere, all of the world simultaneously has gotten real interested in watching the night sky. And I don't think this is a coincidence, and this is definitely not a coincidence when it's been coincided with all this asteroid and meteor talk. And again, as I covered in my Reality Evolution series, Part 5, the secrets of the sun, the things that are happening with our sun right now are causing asteroids from the asteroid belt and comets and meteors and everything else to be flung at us and slingshotted at the Earth. So either they're looking for something they're expecting, or they're looking for something that might cause an extinction level event, or both. I mean, I saw a story just a couple of days ago. NASA gives, or the NSA or whoever, somebody gives 2 spy satellites to NASA, Hubble style, to use to explore space. Now all of a sudden, the world's going to pot and shit. There's war and famine, and there's the economy's going to shit and everything else. But let's all now build the biggest motherfucking telescopes we can build. All these different, everybody's looking at the sky all of a sudden. Something's going on. They are anticipating something, folks. Now you can sit here and speculate all day about that, what that is, aliens or meteors or comets or asteroids or whatever have you. But there is absolutely zero doubt now that they are looking and anticipating something. Now, whether that's, Nibiru or Vulcan or, what was the other one? Nemesis, or whether that's, don't want to close my eyes, a big killer asteroid or whatever it may be. There's definitely a lot of sky. I want you to go on. And another thing that's interesting, if there's nothing to that, then how come all of a sudden the people that do have all the bucks in the world, let's see, United Arab Emirates, where all the oil barons go to spend their money they've gotten off off our gas prices we'd be getting raped over here with for the past 10 years since 9/11. Chinese as well. But all these guys are all of a sudden, right now, with all that's going on in the world, choosing now to build the biggest everything. There's this war going on now. I've seen articles about where these guys these billionaires, trillionaires are trying to have wars to see who can build the biggest super yacht. And every other week, the world's largest building is being bested. Somebody's building a newer, bigger one every other week. Here's an article tonight. Ambition has never scaled such heights. China plans to build the world's tallest tower and complete it in just 3 months. What's the hurry? What's the hurry? Why is it that all the guys who have built the wealth and who have acquired this and have steered world events their way to acquire? I mean, because once you have so much money, it's pointless anymore, right? And this is how men seek to become kings. And I don't think this is a coincidence. I don't think none of this is a coincidence at all. I don't think it's a coincidence that everything's pointing at space now. Everybody's all of a sudden real interested in watching space and what's coming towards Earth. And all of a sudden, everybody's trying to build the next biggest building. I think they are anticipating the arrival of these extraterrestrial gods, because whoever is shown to have, the tallest buildings and the most wealth will be seen and treated as kings by the invading extraterrestrial gods, right? So it'll be real clear who has what. And look at how the central banks are buying up gold right now. Whew! Hell yeah, they are. This is why. Everybody, think about it. Whoever has the most gold, if it's true what they say, if these guys come back, well, who's got the biggest building? Oh, that looks like the Tower of Babel of old. China, look, they've got all the gold. And yes, they don't forget the fact that the Chinese people believe that they all descended from this crazy mythical dragon creature thing. True story, by the way. You see where I'm going with this? It really does seem like the people who have the wealth are trying to assert themselves in the biggest way possible right now because they're anticipating the return of someone who it's going to be very important to show. Because who are they trying to impress with this? You know, you got so many people that are out of work and so many people living in destitute lives on this planet right now. Who the fuck are you trying to impress, man? Nobody's going to be impressed by who's got your bigger dick. But I mean, I understand, you know, Chinese, of course, they've got to do this. You know, America, you have bigger dick, but you don't have bigger building. Ha 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 ha. But I really do. I really think that because all, you know, again, these are all phallic symbols. The phallic worshiping symbol for these bloodlines and these extraterrestrial races is the obelisk. That's why they put them at places where there were wars and great battles. I mean, even here in Texas, down by Houston, the San Jacinto Monument, to mark the Battle of San Jacinto, bloody battle. What do they put there? A big, gigantic fucking fuck-off obelisk. And that's what this is a symbol for. So I mean, I really think that if one were to speculate and say that with all this newfound sky watching going on, and also all this newfound ability to all of a sudden just out of the clear blue nowhere start building, everybody's in competition to build a bigger building or a bigger yacht in extravagance and everything else, when so much of the world is going into pure abject poverty, it's got to be to impress somebody that's not already here on this planet. Unbelievable. Officials are trying to determine what caused a large chunk of ice to fall off from the sky and crash into a home in Northern California. A basketball-sized block of ice hit the roof of a home in Fremont, California Sunday evening, creating a manhole-sized cavity, according to police in a KTVU TV report. Ice was found scattered on the ceramic tile roof and in front of the two-story home. Homeowner Rong Zhang said she heard a loud noise and her entire house shook. We didn't know what was going on. The ice didn't break the home ceiling and no injuries were reported, but authorities are still trying to figure out where the ice could have come from. The home is in the flight path of a San Francisco International Airport. Okay, well, maybe it broke off a plane or something, but yeah. However, now listen to this. Okay, that's your first guess, right? Okay, their house in an airplane flight path, it probably fell off a plane, blah, blah. That's it, the end of the story. However, officials told KTVU that the ice was white and not blue, ruling out the possibility that it dropped from an airplane's lavatory. So, dun, 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 something here. Very strange indeed. Two new Jupiter moons discovered, bringing total number of satellites orbiting the planet to 67. Two new moons have been discovered orbiting Jupiter, bringing the planet's total number of known satellites to 67, and at just 2 kilometers in diameter, one of the moons may be Jupiter's smallest known satellite. The two distant moons, S2010J1 and S2010J2, were discovered during routine tracking observations of already known satellites in September 2010. They were then re-observed by scientists several times that autumn. I mean, how do we have planets with fucking moons we're just now discovering? It's funny how much of this stuff is just now being rolled out as because somebody's on the hunt for something very specific. That's clear. That's just clear from the news stories I've covered here alone. Here we go again. Europe to build world's biggest telescope. I guess they're going to try to outdo the Lucifer telescope at the Vatican, huh? Well, they won't have that. They'll build the flaming asshole of Lucifer telescope. You Europeans will not outdo us. You will not outdo Lord Vader. I mean, my goodness. We will have the flaming Lucifer asshole telescope. A coalition of 15 European countries has announced plans to build the biggest telescope in the world. Is it Europe? Excuse me. Just let me get this right. Isn't Europe in a big fucking financial crisis right now? Aren't they about to go down the drain into the fucking toilet, into the sea? Greeks about to leave the EU, which is going to wreak financial havoc across Europe. But a coalition of 15 European countries is announcing plans to build the biggest telescope in the world? Again, folks, give me a break. How many programs in scientific things have funding been cut to in the name of war and the economy? So right now, with all this is going on, you're telling me it's just a coincidence that all these different countries are putting everything they have in a gigantic telescope? Something's up. They're looking for something. The mirror inside the telescope will measure 39 meters across, 4 times wider than today's biggest telescope, and it will be so powerful that astronomers will even be able to observe dark, rocky planets far beyond our solar system. The European Southern Observatory Project is supported by 15 members of the European Union and has the catchy name European Extremely Large Telescope. Even if it will be built in Chile to avoid light pollution. The twin infrared optical telescope will sit on top of a 3,060-meter mountaintop, giving unparalleled views above the sky. It should hopefully come online in 2022. Now, I guess they're, whatever it is, they're expecting us to still be here then, aren't they? So I think that's what's interesting, you know? When you look at these and stuff like this, or building these giant telescopes, it's clear they're looking for something. But then people say, oh, well, they're looking for Nibiru, looking for this. Well, wait a minute. You know, stuff like this, they're giving themselves till 2022 to have it finished. So I don't think there's any doubt that they're aware of something. Something's coming, something's on its way. They're looking for something specific. But whether or not that really necessarily has anything to do with 2012, it may be another story. It may not have anything to do with that at all. But I think that's kind of the mindset everybody's been thinking, that whatever they're looking for, it must have something to do with 2012. It must have something to do with the Nibiru, the Anunnaki, or something, but maybe not. Maybe not necessarily within that time frame, but still something they're aware of nonetheless. And definitely something they're still trying to keep a lid on for the most part. So, yeah, that's very interesting. Just a month of meditation training alters brain wiring in ways that could open the door to new treatments for mental disorders, research has shown. Scientists looked at the effects of integrative body-mind training on 2 groups of university students. After just 4 weeks or 11 hours of training, scans showed physical changes in the brains of volunteers. Nerve fibers known as white matter became denser, providing greater numbers of brain-signaling connections. At the same time, there was an expansion of myelin, the protective fatty insulation surrounding nerve fibers. The effects were seen in the anterior cingulate cortex region of the brain, which helps regulate behavior. Poor nerve activity in this part of the brain is associated with a range of mental problems, including attention deficit disorder, dementia, depression, and schizophrenia. The study, built on previous research based on magnetic resonance imaging scans that first highlighted brain changes induced by IBMT, scientists revealed results from 2 2010 studies taking a closer look at what the scans revealed. And what's interesting is they've taken Buddhist monks and put the diodes, the electrodes, and stuff on their head for the electroencephalograph, EEG. And they found that when these monks are in the full throes of meditation, their brainwave frequencies are resonating at the same frequency rate as the ionosphere. Now, isn't that interesting? So you've got HAARP, which is an ionospheric heater. There are other ionospheric heaters all around the world. The ionosphere is the area that we bounce television and radio signals off of and stuff. And when you're in meditation, your brain is resonating that frequency. Well, with HAARP, they can manipulate that. So it stands to reason that HAARP not only manipulates, our mind, and it can be used for mind control, but also has some kind of ability to affect states of consciousness that are often associated with the divine, be it praying or meditation or anything else. And I think that's something that doesn't need to be overlooked. I mentioned earlier that, it just seemed like a lot of people have been sending me emails, and I've kind of felt that way too. It's, something's in the mail, something that was about to happen. Some big event's going to happen. And I've said for years, and those of you who've listened to the show for a long time will remember all the times I've said this. You can always tell when some shit's going to go down when you see one thing. And what is that, folks? Those of you who, you'll be a good Global Reality listener if you can remember this one. Might need to give you a hint. There's always one surefire way you can always tell some shit's about to go down. Poppy Bush is in the news blubbering and crying. I don't know what it is over the past 4 or 5 years. I guess he's getting older, getting on up there in the years. And, but for the past 4 or 5 years, every time Poppy Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush is on TV, he just starts blubbering and crying. And for a minute there, you're like, man, is this guy getting a conscience or something? What's going on here? He's got access to the life extension, I'm sure. He's only 88. My God, look at fucking Kissinger and David Rockefeller. They're still fucking rip-roaring and ready to go. But literally, every time you see George Bush on TV blubbering and crying, some big event happens. And here it is. If you need me, I'll be there. George Herbert Walker Bush moved to tears as he reads out poem for his family to granddaughter Jenna, who also can't stop crying. Oh, Jesus, give me a fucking... You realize this motherfucker's a murderer? They're trying to pull a Michael Jackson on this. I mean, for years and years and years, Michael Jackson's a fucking child molester. Michael Jackson's a fucking fag. Wannabe white, child molesting, queer, blah, 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 blah. And then he dies, and oh my God, Michael Jackson's the most amazing person that we've ever known. Don't you dare say he was a pedophile. You are disgracing the memory of a great, wonderful musical artist. And that's what they're trying to do with Poppy here. When he dies, let's just forget all the genocide. Let's forget all the murders he ordered. Let's forget his involvement in JFK and Gulf of Tonkin and fucking on and on and on and on and on. Cuba, I mean, my God. Director of the CIA. But I love that, he's getting on up there in the years, and so let's think that he was a good guy. Fuck him. Fuck Poppy. Poppy's got a lot of blood on his hands, and blubbering and crying, being 88 years old in a fucking wheelchair ain't going to change that. Fuck him. He made his decisions. Just because he knows the fucking fires are going to be snipping, that's why he's crying. You know what I'm saying? He knows that goddamn pitchfork of the guy at the red PJs is going to be up his ass real soon with no KY whatsoever. That's why I'd be fucking crying too if I had that much blood on my hands. Jesus Christ. You better be crying, Bubba. You better be crying for some sucking. You better go suck up to Hines real quick. Well, Hines, I know that we had ourselves a rough time. What do you want, Bush? I'm giving you no lotion. Get the fuck out of my house. Can I ask a question? Why do these white Aryan Brotherhood skinheads, why are they always homosexuals? Anybody know the answer to that? There's this story here about posing with street sweeper shotguns and out of their minds on meth inside the bizarre and brutal world of Texas Aryan Brotherhood. Why are these guys always homosexuals? I don't know what it is. Why is it that being a white supremacist always seems to come in line with fucking other dudes in the ass? I never understood that. We're going to cornhole us a black tonight. Mm-hmm. Well, wait a minute. Why are you going to cornhole the guy? Why can't you just, string him up or something like they used to in the old days? But you got to fuck him in the ass? You got to degrade him? What's up with that? What kind of hate group is that? Never in my life have I ever seen a hate group whose answer to the hate is, well, let's dress up in some faggy clothes and fuck them in the ass. I mean, what in the hell? I'm not going to dignify that with reading that article. I just thought it was worth mentioning because I saw it. Well, that's all the news we have for tonight. News cycle is slow right now. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. we're going to be getting back into our continued series of reading tonight, and been enjoying it a lot lately. We'll try to get into as much as we can for you here tonight. I've got an early lunch meeting tomorrow, so I got to wrap it up at some point. But theglobalreality.com is my website. We'll take a break, come back, and we will get into our series of reading for you here tonight. This is the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network with me, your host, Josh Reeves. Stay with us. All right, back here with you on the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being here with us tonight for another late-night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. Tonight, in this segment, we're going to be getting into Chapter 20, Prehistoric Forts or Observatories from the Lost Worlds of Ancient America. And be reading as much as we can get through here tonight. Again, my website where this broadcast originates from is theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. Up there, you'll find all the ways to support our work, including the chip-in banners. One for the bills and operating costs for the month. The other is for the film. Also have a donate button. You can put up to $10,000 a day in. There is a subscribers box there. You can have it come out of your bank account easy every month, so you don't have to come back and hit chip-in banners. There's various amounts you can do there. There's also a P.O. box where you can send checks or money orders made to me, Josh Reeves, if you absolutely can't use PayPal. And there's also the Amazon wish list that has items that we need for filmmaking and radio and everything up there pertaining to our work. So that's how you support our work. We have to pay the stream bill on Friday, so please help us out and act accordingly if you can. And plus I have to, eat and live and survive, and this is my job. Prehistoric forts or observatories. That massive military operations were carried out across the American Middle West appears confirmed by a series of stone hill forts with close parallels to virtually identical constructions raised by the Celts throughout Central and Western Europe more than 2 millennia ago. When the first pioneers began crossing our continent 200 years ago, they encountered a number of large abandoned castles. Local Indians claim were built by a non-native people exterminated in a long series of wars in the ancient past. And again, these that's something that's been heavily documented, and these exterminated ones were said to be giants. These unusual locations comprising stone walls of prodigious extent, again, unusual locations comprising stone walls of prodigious extent. What's that sound like? Were found perched atop high hills with commanding vistas in all directions. To early Americans fresh from their experiences in the War for Independence, the impressive structures were obviously designed as military fortifications, hence their designation as forts. Much later, during the second half of the 20th century, archaeologists were convinced almost everything pre-Columbian was astronomically aligned somehow, and therefore insisted that the ramparts actually comprised celestial observatories built by members of a family or two in their spare time. Yeah, right. Somebody just got bored and decided to go use sacred mathematics to build an earthwork that takes hundreds of years with buckets full of dirt, if you believe the technique they've told us that these are built with, which I don't. Salaried academics insisted a military interpretation was no longer fashionable because they were promoting their notion of an idyllic pre-Columbian North America where the peaceful arts of astronomy flourished in contradistinction to politically incorrect portrayals of the natives as wagers of war. In examining 2 surviving hilltop sites, readers are invited to determine for themselves the truth about their purpose for construction. Our first example is located in the Ohio Valley, of course, the hotbed. Sprawling across a bluff 235 feet above the Little Miami River is a colossal network of stone ramparts covered with earth. Running 3.5 miles in circumference and varying in height from 4 to 20 feet. The walls enclose 100 acres studded with conical mounds and crescent-shaped gateways. to level the top of the hilltop, raise its walls, and build their interior mounds, the prehistoric American engineers moved an estimated 480,000 cubic yards of earth. One bucket full at a time, folks, yeah. Over 300 years, yeah. That was enough material to fill a line of modern dump trucks stretching more than 200 miles. Clearly, such an immense public works project could only have been undertaken by a populous community whose members rated its massive construction at the utmost priority. Well, not necessarily. I disagree with that statement. That's one way of looking at it. And again, these scientific types, they give you one way of looking at it and act like, well, that's it. There's no other way of looking at it. Could only have been undertaken by a populous community whose members rated its massive construction as the utmost priority. Well, I don't believe that. You could have had a small amount of people who had access to high technologies who rated it as a utmost priority and had it done that way. But I don't believe the story they told us, they took 500 years or 300 years or whatever else to build Moundville, Alabama, and as soon as it was done, they built it bucketful by bucketful for 300 years, and as soon as it was done, their entire population disappeared? Come on. Fort Ancient is a state park. Well, they're coincidentally, we were just reading that email. Pisces went there and got some footage for us. I hadn't got a chance to go through it yet, but Fort Ancient is a part of a state park comprising 764 acres of plant and animal life and featuring 2 miles of trails through enchanting woodlands. The 4 miles of walls left by an obviously gifted people define a gigantic precinct capable of enclosing perhaps 12,000 persons at a time. It is not known if such numbers were ever assembled behind the enduring walls, but great multitudes certainly gathered there for special occasions. Only a few burials took place within the enclosure, and these apparently contain the remains of dedicated sacrifices made when the site was first opened. It comprises 2 main areas joined by a middle section, connecting both with an ancient limestone processional way. Extending for a quarter mile from the enclosure are parallel earthworks, which lead to a single large mound. Across the river, in a clearing, are limestone slabs arranged in the 35-foot-long configuration of a snake. A large pole stands at its head to cast a shadow along the length of the effigy on the morning of every summer solstice. An identical serpent image oriented to the winter solstice sunrise, lies a short distance from the riverbank. Both effigies are on private property belonging to the YMCA, but access to them is normally possible through the local museum. According to official archaeological opinion, the impressive walls of Fort Ancient do not belong to a fort, as the first pioneer discoverers assumed, even though its modern name is still in use. The site, they argue, is a ceremonial sacred center, never used for habitation or defense. Its master builders belong to the Hopewell culture that began around 200 BC, but came to an end 600 years later for reasons which still elude most investigators. There are no known celestial alignments behind the walls, however, so the crescent-shaped gateways there are all the more intriguing. The precinct contrasts with the solar-oriented serpent effigies outside across the river. The moon universally signifies inner quests, psychological states, and subconscious conditions paralleling the interior of the site. As such, its walls enclose the internal, deepest spiritual life of its creators. The discovery of a pavement near one of the walls in the narrowing middle section of the site, a feature found nowhere else in pre-Columbian North America, suggests a ritual path perhaps corresponding to the irregular gaps appearing in the enclosure. Trees within the precinct were not cleared, so the preserved stands of forest were perhaps regarded as sacred groves, and the Amorites practiced their rituals in groves, and this is where the Bohemian Grove comes from. It's a tradition carried from these ancient Aryan Amorites. Trees within the precinct were not cleared, so that blah, 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 blah. There's a kind of plaza or open area near the south overlook where general assemblies took place, but the groves themselves are set apart by the walls, the purpose of which seems to have defined their sacred character. And that's interesting. In the proposed park that they were going to build for Rockwall, they had an area there in the park where they were going to excavate the wall. It was going to be called the Grove. Hello? It is this hallowing aspect that was alone responsible for the construction of Fort Ancient. In other words, the groves determined its creation. The ramparts are really like garden walls enclosing natural sacrosanct ground. It is possible that the shaman, whose bones and a large quartz crystal were found in one of the area's few graves, was the same person who originally determined the site as a sanctum sanctorum. The walls, mounds, gateways, and paved pathways are only adjuncts to the sacred grove, the real spiritual focus of the place. The walls would enshrine the center, pay homage to it, define it, and focus it. Fort Ancient actually represents one link in a stupendous chain of stone enclosures spanning almost 500 miles from the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. At least 15 similar, though smaller stone structures, all dating to a common era, circa 1 AD, are known in southern Illinois and Fort Hill, nearly 50 miles east of Fort Ancient. It is practically as large. No one knows how many of these prehistoric ramparts, all located atop high bluffs overlooking rivers in thickly wooded areas, originally stood across the three-state region, although they appear to have been the work of a single race, judging from their uniformity of style and shared dates. Of their surviving number, Fort Ancient is the largest and most easily accessible. The site is professionally maintained, and visitors should begin their self-conducted tour at the main entrance, where a small but highly interesting museum displays treasured artifacts excavated from the area. So there's your story on the museum. You know, if you have a PayPal address, Pisces, let me know, man. I'll find a way to get like $20 to you if you can get back and go to that museum or something to get more footage, since that's in your area. I'll be happy to help you out with that. I'd like to be able to just have a van and a trailer and be able to go to all these places and have the funding to be able to go and shoot all these places myself. Keep your fingers crossed. Maybe that'll happen. Fort Ancient's Tennessee counterpart is Old Stone Fort. High on a remote and deeply wooded bluff on a site overlooking two swiftly flowing rivers, an unknown people arrived to create a sacred center that would last for the next 2,000 years. While Rome ruled on the other side of the world, they erected an enclosure more than a mile long, skillfully raising a line of stone walls across the edge of the steepest slopes. The lofty ramparts surrounded 40 acres of hallowed ground, which had been set aside strictly for ceremonial purposes. During the next 4 centuries, the walls were built, repaired, and reconstructed as unguessed thousands of celebrants conducted their lost rites of empowerment within the holy clearing. Then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the inhabitants abandoned their ritual precinct in the early years of the 5th century AD and vanished into North America's pre-Columbian past. The reason for their abrupt departure remains a mystery as their identity. I'm telling you, they ascended somewhere. When early white settlers stumbled upon the overgrown site in the late 18th century, they presumed it originally construed a military complex. Archaeologists later assigned the fort's construction to the Middle Woodland tradition, a period in which highly organized societies flourished throughout the Ohio Valley and down through the Tennessee. They subsequently determined its function as a religious center. The enclosure is approached through a complex arrangement of walls, mounds, ditches, and embankments. A pair of conical mounds adjoining the walls stood on either side of the entrance. Just beyond lay an 8-foot deep ditch, giving the site a roughly rectangular outline. Little of the original configuration remains. The prodigious ditch, once as much as 3/4 of a mile long, is now a 4-foot dip. But its position on the site's high ground affords the best panorama of the sacred clearing. It was formerly entirely surrounded by water, a condition afforded by the ditch connecting the Big Duck and Little Duck rivers. The average height of Old Stone Fort's walls is 4 feet. They were constructed in an unusual manner. First, stones were piled in parallel rows to form a trench, which was floored in between with small shale slabs and then filled in with rubble. The ramparts were finally covered with earth to make a smooth cap. They began where the cliff ridges end, presenting the appearance of having grown from the bluff itself. The Big Duck and Little Duck rivers run on either side of the sacred site, dropping 100 feet to create a dramatic waterfall with numerous deep pools at the northwestern overlook. A small but important and informative museum stands a few paces before the original entrance to the enclosure. Wonderful views of the Big Duck River are visible from the museum roof. The official guidebook to Old Stone Fort states that the site was probably a special and mystical place even before the enclosure was built. Its location in the forks of a river may have given it special significance. The cliffs and the waterfalls were certainly as remarkable as they are now. The eastern walls of the site run above the banks of the Little Duck River, stopping parallel just before a small island at which the rampart suddenly turns due west. Here, the sacred center demonstrates its response to the hallowed landscape. The island in the stream was a consecrated spot that compelled the construction of the walls to execute the turn. At this point, as perhaps no other part of the enclosure, the site reveals mystical interdependence on the special environment. The park guidebook also mentions the processions which may have passed through the entrance alleyway and the ritual significance the entranceway may have had as you pass from the outside world to the sacred ground enclosed beyond. Rites associated with the sun were probably carried out at Old Stone Fort because the ritual significance of the entranceway was determined by archaeoastronomers in 1989 when they discovered that it was oriented to the sunrise of the winter solstice. Examination of the walls showed that their ridges had been worn down from traffic on top, where mass processions took place during hundreds of years. Although ceremonial and even ritual elements may be found at some of the ancient American hilltop sites, these spiritual features are ancillary, even incidental, to each such location's fundamentally military characteristic. In this, they are all identical to contemporaneous hill forts found across Western Europe. These are the so-called oppidi, or the oppida, fortified settlements atop strategically located hills built by the Celts to defend their settlements against expansion by Roman imperialism 2,000 years ago. The European and American hill forts not only came into existence at the same time, but examples on both continents shared identical construction techniques with intermixing stone and wood with earth. Here we go. See, these guys were builders too, and they knew how to mix different stuff together to make different components for building, didn't they? The oppida's outer bulwark of stone slabs, tongue twister, and timbers filled with an earth-gravel mixture cited by Julius Caesar in his Bello Gallico as a Murus Gallicus, or a Gallic wall, exactly describes Fort Hill in Ohio, Tennessee's Old Stone Fort, bordered on either side by the Big Duck and Little Duck rivers, as a mirror image of the layout and even configuration of Germany's Herrenberg Hill Fort, situated between two tributaries of the Danube. Celtic Oppida and Zavist in Bohemia, Ireland's Dun Alane, Mount Brevenet in France, Portugal's Citania de Sanfins, and Numancia in northeastern Spain could all pass for hill forts in the Ohio Valley. The close physical resemblance of these Western European hill forts with their Adena American counterparts and their common time frame and construction methods undoubtedly define the impact made on the prehistory of our country by Celtic culture bearers who arrived in the Western Hemisphere and raised the impressive bulwarks that still stand today after the passage of 2 millennia. So that's the end of chapter 20. And we are going to get into chapter 21 now, because it's a short chapter, so I'd like to carry on here. Chapter 21, Libyan's 3rd century eclipse in Kentucky. In 1938, Isidore Feldman purchased a small tract of land on Buckeye Road in Lancaster, Kentucky. 50 years later, he handed over the business to his grandson, David, who occasionally stumbled upon ancient rock art at the family property. One petroglyph in particular attracted his special attention, and he was encouraged to pursue the enigma by Dr. Myron Payne, professor of agricultural engineering and nominated for Who's Who in Engineering 1977. In 2002, Ancient American magazine broke David's story of a 3rd century astronomical alignment uncovered in the Midwest. The significance of this find cannot be overvalued because it confirms the arrival of overseas visitors to the bluegrass state during pre-Columbian times. Now, this one I haven't heard about. I'm excited about this. I've not heard about this one yet. Dramatic evidence for the arrival of prehistoric seafarers on our continent has been found near Drip Rock, Kentucky. Although the discovery took place 8 years ago, it is published in the 2004 edition of Ancient American magazine for the first time as an exclusive. The find was made in early March 1994 across the road from my cattle farm in the Estill-Jackson County area of the South Fork of the Kentucky River. I was led by his neighbor, Anthony Smith, to a 25-foot-high sandstone cliff located near or on the so-called Warriors Trail, the East Fork, that enters Jackson from Clay County, proceeding north to Ohio. At a small opening between a pair of rocks, we examined a strange set of petroglyphs, unlike anything with which we were familiar. The images seemed more like the part of an inscription than rock art, so I sent my photograph of the markings to Harvard professor Barry Fell, president of the Epigraphic Society, an organization dedicated to the study of ancient inscriptions. Dr. Fell was impressed with the Kentucky find and set to work at once on a translation. He believed it was indeed an inscription written in the language of ancient Libya. Ancient Libya. Here we go. Ancient Middle Easterns again. Dun, 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 dun. I knew I was on the right track of this. My God. Whew. Well, we want to talk about. We're talking about that. I mean, it's going to be funny to see these guys. Probably after my movies come out, they'll probably get on TV and try to spin it, and they'll be like, "Well, we have evidence that ancient Al Qaeda was here. Al Qaeda was here 2,000 years ago, 2,000 years before Columbus. Al Qaeda's been here this whole time." Oh man, this is getting deep. They were ruddy-complected, fair-haired seafarers, noted for their sometimes extensive voyages they undertook. Their tarchana, or reckoner, was a navigational device, perhaps a kind of magnetic compass they either invented or inherited from their Phoenician ancestors. Well, that you know what they're talking about. That's the Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism was found off the coast of Crete, near Greece, and Crete was a Minoan and Amorite stronghold. And the Phoenicians and the Amorites are one and the same. These are the people Dr. Fell concluded were responsible for engraving the Kentucky inscription. There you go. I would agree with that, yeah. After a few weeks' work, he was satisfied with the translation and planned to publish his findings in the next issue of his official papers. And he considered the Smith-Feldman discovery important enough to include in an up-and-coming revised edition of his popular book, America BC. The glyphs, he declared, commemorated a prehistoric solar eclipse. In my April 5th, 1998 letter to Fell, I narrowed the date specified on the inscription with the assistance of Dr. Fell's close Texas friend, Bill Rudersdorf. I reran the eclipse data for the period of 499 BC to 1000 AD, and Fell responded in a June 6, 1998 letter, "I am confident that the only total solar eclipse visible at the Drip Rock, Kentucky site you specified is the one on April 23rd, 255 AD at 16:34 p.m., the middle of the totality. The sun was well up in the evening sky, about 180 degrees above the horizon, at the middle of totality and almost exactly due west." Later that month, however, Fell passed away just 2 days exactly before the 1739th anniversary of the solar eclipse he translated from the Libyan original. Dr. Fell's translation is published here for the first time in Ancient American magazine. Well, that's interesting. I have to look more into that one. Chapter 22, A Dragon in Rock Lake by Archie Eskborn. Founder of the Rock Lake Research Society in 1997, Archie Eskborn dedicated the last 10 years of his life to finding Wisconsin's sunken city of the dead. But only after his untimely death due to pancreatic cancer at 56 years of age in 2008, the same establishment archaeologists who consistently snubbed or depreciated his tireless efforts admitted to the existence of some 1,100 prehistoric man-made structures on the bottom of Lake Eskborn's words, the structures on the lake bottom. Eskborn's words are therefore not only those of a visionary explorer, but described a lost world that he went far to resurrect. My real reason, the name of this chapter, chapter 22, A Dragon in Rock Lake. Wow. I'm intrigued. My real reason for coming to Rock Lake was practically forgotten. I had been running from boat to boat, setting up electronics and video equipment for most of the morning of July 17, 1998. Ever since our first unsuccessful underwater video expedition the previous May, our goal was the same, namely to somehow photograph the sunken pyramidal structures in Rock Lake. The site for this ongoing enigma is located in southern Wisconsin, just south of Highway I-94, between Milwaukee and Madison. Situated in the charming town of Lake Mills, pear-shaped Rock Lake is 2.5 miles long from north to south, 1.7 miles at its widest extent, and with an average depth of 40 feet. The deepest point lies in the middle of the north end, going down to 90 feet. Just 3 miles due east is an archaeological park, Aslan, a 21-acre ceremonial center of walls and earthen temple mounds occupied until the early 14th century. Gouged out by a retreating glacier 12,000 years ago, Rock Lake got its name from stories told by resident Winnebago Ho Chunk to pioneers around 1830 about rock teepees concealing the dead of an alien people at the bottom of a lake. These ancient foreigners were said to have given the lake its original name, Tyriana. Although the Indians no longer remembered what it meant, it was dismissed as a fairy tale by the practical newcomers, and this native tradition was virtually forgotten 70 years later when a pair of duck hunters peered over the side of their boat during a severe drought that lowered lake levels and greatly improved water clarity. They were shocked to behold a massive pyramidal mound of black stone sitting on the bottom. For the rest of the 20th century, Rock Lake attracted numerous pyramid hunters, clashing with established archaeologists who laughed off these pyramids as nothing more than glacial debris. I knew that without any type of photographic or digital image, there could be no meaningful scientific debate. There were credible authorities on both sides of the controversy, but I chose to team up with experts who actually had done real field work. They were not armchair archaeologists. These foremost included James Schertz and glacial geologist Lloyd Horbostel. Both had already performed decades-long research before my arrival at Rock Lake. I also sought out Frank Joseph, who published several magazine articles and 2 books on the subject, the results of some 100 expeditions above, on, and under the lake beginning in 1983. Our July attempt was armed not only with the latest in sonar equipment, but included a multidisciplinary team of divers, researchers, and underwater photographers, along with qualified support people. We budgeted 2 days for the side-scan sonar work, but were already 4 hours behind schedule due to motor malfunctions aboard our boats. We were also dealing with the power supply problems for both the side-scan sonar boat and the 3D SLS sonar equipment on our research vessel, the RV Tyrannia. I notified the captain of the dive boat via cell phone that we would be heading out shortly and he should proceed toward diving target 1, as we earlier discussed in our morning briefing. Lloyd Hornbostel would guide our divers to the spot. Hard Target 1 received its name Bass Rock Bar 1 years earlier from local fishermen. Bass Rock Bar 1 was mapped via sonar previously by Schertz and Hornbostel, albeit not with the sophisticated instruments we were about to use, but their equipment was nonetheless effective enough to demonstrate its apparent geometry. Hornbostel dove on this structure numerous times in the past. His observations confirmed sonar readings of this interesting formation. In short, BRB-1 displayed definite elements that tended to confirm its man-made identity. I focused our research on BRB-1 primarily because producers at the Arts and Entertainment Channel required more Rock Lake footage to include in their Pyramids episode, for an unsolved mystery series they plan to air in early 1999. Though my conversations with Hornbostel and the data he presented, BRB-1 displayed on its southern terminus an undeniable delta shape. It looked like the side of a pyramid. Additionally, BRB-1's compass orientation from a geological perspective would preclude it from being a glacial remnant. I learned from our dive that previous May that conventional underwater photography would probably be very problematical during this time of year due to reduced water clarity. However, given the shallower depth of BRB-1, an underwater video attempt here would stand a better chance of rendering useful images than among other pyramid targets such as the Kennedy or Limonadus because of their deeper locations and subsequent lack of available natural light. Besides, I was confident that our new side-scan sonar would capture these structures in their true form and thereby end the controversy surrounding their existence. Let me guess, they got out there and all the equipment quit working, right? We decided that BBR-1 offered the best potential for successful underwater video footage, simultaneously satisfying A&E's needs concerning their proposed special about Rock Lake. Of course, our original and more important mission involved a sweep of the lake with the same kind of side-scan sonar that Dr. Robert Ballard used to find RMS Titanic in 1982. Our own RV Tyrannia headed south while Professor Schertz and I studied the monitor. Computer-generated imagery of the lake bottom began to appear on the screen, and the vessel glided at a steady 2 or 3 knots, towing the side-scan array. Our sonar operator, Captain Clark Willick, had one hand on the wheel and the other on the mouse, ready to digitally capture any image we wanted to preserve. Ah, Zeke's Wall, Professor Schertz exclaimed as we passed over the legendary structure, named after a Lake Mills resident who claimed to have seen a standing wall in this quadrant of Rock Lake about 50 years before. I judged from our course that we would encounter our next target based on aerial photos made by an assistant team leader, Jack Letourneau. The shots were taken during his flyover the year before. These extraordinary photos allowed us to corroborate both location and size of the structures we would encounter through sonar and the visual sightings made by our divers. I held one of Jack's aerial photos over the computer monitor and told the professor, I can tell you what's coming next, a large pyramid structure plus the so-called Seven Sisters. Who were they, he asked. Just as the undeniable image of pyramidal structures drifted across the screen, it was a massive, 150 feet long and 12 foot across with right-angle geometry and dead straight sloping walls, a colossal sight, thrilling confirmation that man-made structures do indeed lie on the lake floor. So for all you doubters out there, I want to go find this motherfucker too. See, this is why I need to get me a TV show, or somebody needs to give me a bunch of money so I can go and explore all this stuff, and I don't want to go out and fucking, I got crazy motherfuckers I know that'll go jump in a lake with a camera. Probably got 5 of them in the chat room right now with their hands up, waiting to go. I then predicted that the next formation would be the Seven Sisters. Their name was based on several astronomical and mythological references, namely the Pleiades, which seemed appropriate after seeing them for the first time in Jack's aerial shots. When they appeared on cue across from the computer screen, Professor Schertz realized that nearly a century of subsurface exploration had just entered a new era. Our voyage proceeded on a south-by-southwesterly heading, the instruments capturing on hard drive uncertain feedback from the bottom of that needed further analysis. I was continually checking my video recording equipment. It was making a live running record of the sonar imagery coming up from the bottom of the lake. Suddenly, and quite unexpectedly, something came across the viewfinder that made my jaw drop. In a scene out of a movie, I called to Schertz, "Do you see that?" He seemed mesmerized and said not a word, as his eyes were glued on the computer monitor. What stretched out before us on the screen was unbelievable. My memory flashed back to old Indian legends of a monster in Rock Lake. Because directly below us was a stylized but discernible image, apparently made of solid material, configured into the shape of a dragon. Whoa. So there's a fucking drawing of or some kind of shape, material object under that lake in Wisconsin, shaped like a dragon? God damn. See, I heard that this was some ancient extraterrestrial mining location. Once they got everything mined out of there, they fucking flooded it out and covered their tracks. And everybody has just assumed and thought it was a natural lake. That's interesting. The antiquity of Rock Lake's monster was suggested by a gargantuan effigy mound that skirted the south shore until its destruction in the 1920s. Dating back at least to the time that Aslan flourished 900 years ago and described by the Wisconsin Archaeologist magazine as a water spirit. The 84-foot-long earthwork portrayed some monstrous being dwelling in the lake. It was reported that this monster effigy was obliterated when a railroad trestle was put in the south end of the lake at the turn of the century. Joseph went on to state that sightings of an actual creature based on anecdotal accounts of the late 1800s described the monster as having a serpentine torso and a sprouting a long neck and a horse-like head, similar to the subsurface figure moving across our computer screen. Was that dragonish monster really the effigy that early observers had reported as being destroyed? Or was it a different one that had become inundated as the water levels rose with the construction of local mills in the mid-19th century? Could it be that our dragon was the same mystical animal or water spirit that the destroyed Earth effigy was supposed to warn native inhabitants about? Since or before the time of nearby Aslan, these questions raced through my mind while we drifted slowly over and past the tail. Almost immediately, another enigmatic surprise burst on the screen. What appeared to be a set of artificial steps next to the dragon commanded my attention. Man, I want to go check this shit out. They got a fucking sea. You guys got a sea monster, man? I thought we were cool down here in Texas with the rock walls and shit. Fuck that. Wisconsin's where it's at. They got buried pyramids and fucking sea monsters and shit. This is just a fucking bad horror movie waiting to happen. I've got to go. We're going to need a blonde with big tits. And we're going to need one black guy because they're probably both going to die first. I mean, that's just, we're going to have a plot. That's what we need. I'm taking volunteers. Oh, man. Seriously, though, this is some shit. I want to go, do some adventures in this motherfucker. Go out there chumming for fun. You know me, I'll be I'll be in a boat with my goddamn life jacket on, chumming for that motherfucker, dude. Here, monster, 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 monster. I'll be out there fucking chumming, dude. Come on, I'll be baiting that motherfucker. Hey, dropping fucking chihuahuas and shit in there, trying to bait his ass. Come on, let's come up to the minute for daddy. Come on. So just long enough for me to get some high def footage. Come on. Man, that is, yeah, dude. Seriously. That's some shit up there, man. If I lived in Wisconsin, I'd be at that motherfucker every day of my life, dude, trying to see some shit. That sounds, my goodness. It kind of reminds me of, it's like the CMP stuff, Why aren't people out here every day at this place trying to fucking find some shit or get some evidence? People stand out at Area 51 every day waiting to see a UFO and don't see shit. People go to Bilderberg group meetings and yell at fucking bankers like they give a rat's ass. If you had that much money as they do, you wouldn't give a rat's ass who was yelling at you. But no, meanwhile, people are just pulling their pud talking about central bankers and Jews. Ah, dang no Jews. And somehow I don't think the Jews put the pyramids and the rock monster in the lake in Wisconsin, but nonetheless, it's important. But more discoveries were soon to follow. Other revealing pieces of the puzzle were to fall into place as we got underway. A photograph taken by Jack Letourneau showed a large formation in the southern vicinity of the lake. I refused earlier to speculate on its significance with other team members because I wanted sonar verification first. The controversial target was publicized as far back as 1967, when a professional diver, John Kennedy, isn't that interesting, was searching for the fabled pyramids in the Rock Lake. He did indeed find a colossal tent-shaped building and felt sure it was not a natural formation. After concluding a visual inspection and running low on air, Kennedy surfaced and tried to pinpoint his position and notify his dive buddies. Unfortunately, neither he nor they were able to locate the structure again. Rock Lake investigators always assumed he had actually discovered Bass Rock Bar 1. Joseph speculated in the lost pyramids of Rock Lake that Kennedy may have dived on one of the structures in the northern end of the lake. In honor of his find, he dubbed it the Kennedy Pyramid, but these explanations of the Kennedy dive always troubled me. I had been to Rock Lake several times previous to our expedition, scouting the area and trying to get a feel for it. By Kennedy's own account, it would have been almost impossible to swim that far to Bass Rock Bar 1 and survey it. Further, being a diver myself, it seemed obvious to me that Kennedy could not have started on the south end of the lake, swum north almost 3 miles, and hit the northern pyramids without being half fish or at least having some self-propelled underwater sled. Maybe he hitched a ride on the fucking back of that monster and didn't want to tell anybody about it because it, did dirty things to him or something. He didn't want to talk about it. I was able to eventually interview John Kennedy and can attest he did not exhibit any gills or fish-like appendages, nor did his account of the 1967 dive disclose any type of underwater conveyance, other than his flippers. When we discussed the structures that Kennedy was supposed to have dived on, he too was uncomfortable with their recollected location. A month later, I met with Jack Letourneau and felt certain that one of the underwater objects appearing in his aerial imagery of Rock Lake could possibly be the actual structure Kennedy saw. It was within underwater swimming range, related to his starting point, and matched his description. It seemed necessary to verify the image in the photo. It was a high-altitude shot of a subsurface target that appeared to exhibit regular geometric proportions. Jack and I decided to digitally scan the photo and manipulated it in such a way as to enhance the image using state-of-the-art software. Once we had processed it and improved the resolution, we were both convinced that we were looking at a pyramidal structure. Wow. That's interesting stuff. We're going to stop there. We'll pick back up and finish this chapter on the next show. Knocking stuff off my desk here. That's not good. But, yeah, I've got to get up early tomorrow and go to a business meeting. So, man, good stuff there. I'm really more fired up about this Rock Lake thing than I have been. Man, I didn't realize it was all that stuff. I didn't realize there'd been people there doing research on that stuff for years. That's insane. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. Please donate and support our work if you can. And we will see you back here tomorrow night, I'm sure. Penny, there's some stuff to get into. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you, and we'll see you next time. You guys have a great one. Take care.